Some are current, some are immediate, some are in the future. I don't think our consumers fully understand what the investments are, what they're accomplishing, and how might be benefiting from them as well. So we've got those issues going on. And on the right, you can just see as a red line, comparing us to the rest of the nation over time, our costs are going up. And Chamber of Commerce has shown us that our residents do see cost of utilities as a major concern. If, in rating from 1 to 10, the severity of the level of concern, you can see we're on a par with healthcare, groceries, food, and housing, and maybe a little bit above. So it's a serious problem. So I don't know if, Audrey, if you had anything to kind of add to that perspective and how you see things from the State House around this issue.
Thank you. But yeah, as you all know, it's something that we've heard a lot about from advocates as yourselves and others. We're working hard on putting together a climate bill from the Senate end. In terms of, I noticed you said a main driver is infrastructure expansion. I also want to note that also just fuel costs, the cost of natural gas, oil, et cetera, are really compounding and hitting us all hard. So we're doing what we can to figure out levers at the state level that we can use to address energy affordability.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Any other comments or thoughts before we move on here?
No, I'll let you keep going.
Yep, okay. So the energy affordability bill. A lot of you folks here are somewhat familiar with that. I'm not going to go into all the details, but as usual, it's going through the sausage-making process. After a bit of a struggle with a very poor bill coming out of the TUE committee, a tremendous effective pushback from the climate movement, we got a much improved bill coming out of the House. And it's moved on to Senate Ways and Means. And there, the development of a new version, the Senate version, is underway. And I think we know that our favorite Senator Barrett is leading the charge on this. As a respected expert in this area in the Senate for many years. We expect a bill to come out sometime in the next few weeks. So we have a bit of a moment where we need to be paying attention and ready to act on a moment's notice. We'll be doing some work to try to influence Ways and Means, but also we'll have the opportunity when the bill comes to the floor to offer amendments, and that often the timeline for preparing your amendments is often very short, and we'll talk about that later. It'll move on then to a conference committee. We almost certainly will have two different versions of this bill, where they will hammer out the differences, and then we'll get final votes and the governor signing off on it. So there is, in a 5151, this is the House bill, there is a lot to like and a lot that we want to keep. In particular, our priority was that we want to maintain reforms to the competitive electric supply. Those are the reforms that will keep what we call predatory providers of electricity who going door to door in poor neighborhoods and offering real bargains that turn out not to be bargains at all. Our Attorney General has documented lots of money going down the drain. So there's language in the bill to rein in the competitive electric supply and allow towns to actually keep them out of their town if they want. So that's a priority. We want to keep that in there. You can see a long list of other very, I think, positive items. This comes from the Environmental League of Massachusetts. They've done a deep dive into the bill and have kind of enumerated some of the very positive elements, most of which I think folks in our movement, and we would probably like to see kept in there. Long list there. What do we want to remove? And this is where we, I think, get the rubber is meeting the road and is really front and center today in terms of what we want to achieve. There is a proposal for a $1 billion reduction in the Mass Save budget. And that is a lot, no matter how you look at it. Out of a $4.5 billion budget, it's at least a quarter cut. But it would all come in the final year of the three-year plan, and that would mean a 50% one-year budget cut. Massive, massive budget cut. The claim is that, oh, well, we can just, cut out the advertising, take down a few billboards and reduce administration. But the reality is that is not what is going to get cut. Programs and rebates are going to be cut. That's going to result in layoffs of the employees, of people who install the heat pumps and do the energy efficiency assessments. And we also have the loss of future resident and system savings that would come from continuing the mass save program. So all of our movement is really united behind this, and we know the senator has stepped up in public and said that he feels that this is not probably a good thing. The second piece that we're concerned about is the return of 70% of alternative compliance payments to ratepayers. That's in the bill, and this was a result of the effort of the legislators in the House to say, we need to give something back to the ratepayers. Let's look for a pot of money where we can grab that and send it back to them. What are the alternative compliance payments, also known ACP? Utilities pay that when they don't meet their clean energy goals. So it's a penalty, and it mounts up into tens and hundreds of millions of dollars. Our Department of Energy Resources controls the output, what happens to those funds. It's supported some very good things, the green communities, EV rebates, clean energy projects. Some of it's ended up in a kind of custodial account, and that's really attractive to people who want to steal it and give it back to the ratepayers. It has been used already by the governor to give a little money back to ratepayers. There is some support among our allies for maybe a smaller or temporary cut, so it's a bit open to debate. But those are really the two big issues that we have before us. So on that, so Audrey, so comments kind of on those issues and what you all are thinking about it in the senator's office.
Yeah, of course. As you all know, this has been a long process with the governor's bill first, and then the House is two versions. There's stuff we for the most part agree with you on, the stuff that we like from the House and the stuff that we don't agree with on the House side. The senator wants to see what we can do and push the state full funding of 4.5 billion for mass save and not let anything get cut. We feel as an office that there are other places in the energy sphere where we can find other savings for the ratepayer. Like, for instance, GSEP. GSEP is a big program where the utilities use money to help reduce leaks in gas pipes. And they've been spending a lot more money than people expected in 2014. So what we're hoping to do is try to work on that part of the energy sphere.
Okay.
There's all sorts of other things as well. I don't want to take up all the time on this.
No, but
I'll let you guys ask more questions.
yeah, well, just a quick clarification in terms of how I understand that the senator feels like he has to match. I think it's a $9 billion over 10 years cut in energy bills at some point, or in the budget, in the energy budget. And you said, so you mentioned that you're looking at some other options. I mean, how are you thinking about the alternative compliance payment piece of that?
That one's a bit tough, honestly. Just to kind of level set, the governor has used alternative compliance payments to give people like an immediate rebate of some kind. So that's been kind of opened up as a pot of money to help the ratepayers. So ratepayers know that that's a way to alleviate their current status, their current bills.
Yep.
However, the whole point of ACPs are to reinvest in programs in order to conserve energy and support renewable energy. So that's a bit tough. It'll be hard if the Senate were to do nothing on the ACP piece. The House may or other opponents may say, "Oh, you don't want to give ratepayers something back immediately." So it's something that we need to consider as a method, but there are different ways, like just giving money back immediately without other kinds of levers. Like, it doesn't have to be as blunt of an instrument. You know what I mean? So it's something that we are trying to figure out the nuances of, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. Shell has his hand up. Shell, did you have a question?
Yeah, Audrey, first, thanks for coming to be with us today. It's really helpful to have your inside view. I am a member of the Commonwealth Coalition for Democracy and Safe Energy, and we have been attempting to talk to Senator Barrett about the repeal of Section 503 of the 1982 Massachusetts laws, which was passed
Okay.
by 67% of the voters.
Mhm.
What that repeal would do, if the Senate goes along with it, is repeal all the safety provisions that are required of a new nuclear power plant, such as having a place to put the waste permanently, having a decommissioning plan, having an evacuation plan. And number one, we are puzzled about why, if whole thing is about affordability, why support the most expensive way ever invented to generate electricity. Number two, because this was passed by 2/3 of the voters, why is it being slipped through the back door
Mm.
in repeal legislation that doesn't even say what it is they're repealing? It just gives the bill number.
Mm.
And third, what can we do to get Senator Barrett's help in maintaining these very, very important protections?
Mhm.
I'm going to, Cheryl, this is great stuff. We have this on the agenda coming up in just a few minutes. So I have a little background to give on that, and then we'll take this up in detail and in depth. And your question will be sit on the table here for the time being. Just before we move on to the next section here, Audrey,
Yeah.
I'm just curious about, I mean, how do you and the senator sort of think about this balance between the need for some immediate relief for the political pressure that's coming on and the desire to sort of save money over time in the future and build clean energy? I mean, how do you see that tension and how do you deal with it?
Wow, it's something we deal with every day. And like there's like long-term relief versus short-term versus a little bit more medium, you know. So what we're trying to do is incorporate a little bit more of like those medium aspects. Like for instance, we've been looking a lot at how ESMPs are put together, how those are planned comprehensively, where there should be more comprehensive of other aspects of planning, like the CIP process, capital investment planning process, plus the long-term system planning process and how they're currently siloed. We've seen a lot of good numbers about how if those are appropriately considered comprehensively, we
Okay.
could save ratepayers a lot of money.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
So yeah, you're
there's
looking at a lot of things. Some of this I remember was in the governor's bill. Some
yeah,
interesting
yeah.
things, and you guys,
We've
it's
been
great. You're taking a look at all those as potential
mhm.
options for that.
Well,
Great.
and another thing we are definitely, but we're adding some additional stuff that we've found on our own end. Like we've learned a lot about return on equity pieces. I don't know if you guys are
Right.
familiar with a lot of those articles coming out about like how utilities return on equity are a little bit higher
Yeah.
than what might be called for. So we're trying to look at how we can analyze how DPU reviews the return on equity, as well as on the supply side. There's a little bit of a margin that's a bit higher than we'd like to see. So we're trying to figure
Yep.
out how DPU reviews and approves
Right.
utility funding and
Good.
spending,
Great.
and see if where we can cut a little bit more to help the ratepayer.
Yeah. Well, we're certainly trying to do some of that as well. So Sherry, you have something on this topic? Sherry, are you there, Sherry?
Sorry, there
Oh,
I am. I wanted to ask Audrey if they are looking at the possibility of capping how much profit the utilities can make.
We are looking at it a little bit. A stark cap is a little bit. We need a little bit more information before we do a stark cap. You know what I mean? Like a hardline cap of like X%. That we need a little bit more information about how ROEs are set and how that profit is set.
right.
Um,
Yeah.
before doing something
Sorry.
like that. I know we've looked at other states and how that works, but I think just because DPU knows the whole system a little better than us, we're a little nervous about just putting something down legislatively. You might have heard about what's going on in Connecticut. I think Connecticut put down something that was a little bit more firm of a cap, and then the utilities essentially revolted. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
we want to make sure that we maintain a relationship with the utilities, that they're helping, that they're acting as a partner,
Yeah.
while still kind of sitting them down and saying, is this really reasonable? You know what I mean?
Good.
So we're trying to figure out that balance.
Yeah, it's a very complicated area. It probably deserves a deep dialogue from us in the future. But I'm glad the Environmental League of Massachusetts is actually calling for a look at return on equity and possibly reducing that. So some of our allies are stepping up, and I think we're really interested in that, and we'll be following up with you.
Great.
Next item on the agenda here is as you mentioned earlier, Audrey, the gas system, in particular the gas system enhancement program. And just for folks who aren't too familiar with this, through this program, well, in general, investors in utilities, they profit only on investment in infrastructure. That's where they get their return on equity. So they're really incentivized to build more things, put in new pipes. And in particular, GSEP program even further incentivizes that by offering a quick cost recovery from ratepayers. So a lot of folks are saying we need cost controls, focus on pipes at greatest risk only, incentivize retirement of pipelines. And there is some talk about replacing GSEP with what's called a planned transition to clean energy. And there's actually a bill out there, a standalone bill, tactical transition bill, 2249, a Gas Transition Allies, I think, is put together and is really behind and contains a lot of these thoughts and ideas. So what are you guys thinking in the senator's office?
Oh yeah, we have been advocating for reining in GSEP for a long time. Like, as you all probably know, in the 2024 version of the Senate bill, we had language to phase out GSEP over time. It's something that we continue to be interested in. We were very excited to see that DPU themselves over the last two GSEP plans had reined in that cap for cost recovery from 3% to 2.5 and now to 2% in the most recent proceeding. And we want to keep pushing that to reduce that cost. Right. We're also looking at other aspects, like you all probably know, the climate compliance plans are something that the DPU and the utilities are working on now that addresses a lot of the issues that are put forth in the in Senator Cream's bill on the transition to clean energy. We were watching those with great interest. We're seeing what aspects the legislature can assist in that process, and we're going to do what we can. I know line extension allowances are something we're looking at, a few other things, but yeah.
Great. And so how do you guys think about, and there's one element that's been controversial in our group here about focusing on electrification of whole neighborhoods. Are you guys have any thoughts about that and where that might fit in this process? The whole notion, yeah, you know.
I'm sorry. Yeah. It's hard. Like there's been the pilots, the geothermal network pilots that have happened in Framingham. I know the Lowell one didn't quite pan out, but they're working in Dorchester as well. One thing we've noticed is that there's a lot of costs. There's a lot of capital costs involved in putting that together. But we're looking at alternative financing strategies to help support stuff like that. And ownership models is something else we're thinking of. It's tough. It's really tough right now. And we're trying to make it easier and make the appetite stronger for the utilities and others to go that route.
Sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense for sure.
Yeah.
And okay, so are there other questions about gas system reform issues before we move on? Not seeing any right now. Just a quick last question. In terms of the tactical transition bill that's sitting out there, is that something that you see as kind of a vehicle for a lot of the ideas that you're promoting?
Yeah, it's been extremely helpful to work with Senator Cream's team to put together a portfolio on gas.
Okay.
And others as well.
Okay, so Shell, we're coming back. Oh, Tina, you'd have one last question.
Yeah, I just want to remind people that there is going to be a hearing, and maybe this will touch on this, but it's mostly on the Mass Save. Senator Cream has called for a hearing. Audrey, maybe you can speak to that a little bit more. I think it's on the 27th.
I'm afraid I'd have to check. I've been out of the office a little while. I recently broke my foot, so I might be a little bit behind on some things, but I'm happy.
Oh,
I'm
no
sorry. I'm happy to
problem.
check really quick.
Oh, I hope you heal quickly. I've done
Thank
that
you.
myself. We will find out the details and share with people. So Senator Cream's hearing will be on the Mass Save program, but gas might come up at the hearing. Thank you, Roger.
Okay, good. All right, so Shell, here we're getting to your issue. We get a little background, and then we'll take your question first, and then move on from there. We have a couple of folks on from ECA Mass. I think are also prepared to make some statements on this as well. So what we're talking about, for folks who aren't aware, is that there is a proposal to repeal the requirement for a statewide referendum to approve any new nuclear power in the state, and with some of the other items that Shell has enumerated that were in that. This was passed by a referendum of the public, and you said over 60% of the public supported this back in 1982. And what is being proposed here is for the legislature, with one stroke of a pen, to say, well, that whole referendum and what the public had to say back then doesn't really matter. We don't need another referendum to take this away. It's like we can just do it ourselves. And that, I think, speaks to some of the concerns that people have raised here. So it raises this issue of the legislature revoking a previous, what was really a public mandate kind of on its own, with very limited discussion, in fact, and certainly without another further referendum. So supporters of democracy are stepping up around that issue as well. And this is opposed by probably vast majority of our allies are opposing the repeal of this requirement. So Shell had posed a question to you, Audrey. I don't know if you're able to respond to what Shell had to say in terms of how the senator's feeling about this.
I'll do my best. We've heard a lot of similar views about how it is a different. We were looking into it, and it is something like we've heard from from the governor, from others, about this all-in approach to energy, trying to figure out how to best and most cheaply get the energy that our state needs. But we hear you on the anti-democracy piece and how it is by just doing this legislatively without a big process to let everybody weigh in to help. It's something that we're really taking a deep dive in, looking at the legal aspects of things. We're trying our best to balance everything. But yeah, thank you so much for bringing this up. And I'm happy to share with the senator that your team are not a fan of this aspect.
And we're gonna take a poll in a moment, because I will tell you, in our organization, there are folks who are supporters of nuclear power from the perspective, I think, of that if done well, if done appropriately with modern safety techniques, it can be a major source of what we call firm power to balance out the intermittency of the renewables. Batteries can do that to some extent, but I think there is a notion that we may, in fact, need it for some period of time, just to get by, just to deal with climate change. So we have that point of view that exists in our organization, and then we have other folks who feel kind of like Shell does. And we're going to take a little poll here, because we as a leadership team here are interested in finding out, at least in an informal way, where our folks are standing on this question. So in a minute we'll do that. But
yeah, Roger, could I add a couple of
sure, and then Marcia,
points in
if
response
you're
to
there, Marcia, I'm
Audrey
going to ask you to jump in. Okay, Shell?
Yeah. So first of all, we need to look at the climate for nuclear nationally, which is that Trump is gutting what little teeth the Nuclear Regulatory Commission has. It is just as he's done with almost every other agency that was responsible for our well-being. It's being turned into just go corporate no matter what. Another is that nuclear takes a very long time to deploy. So it's not a really great solution to immediate climate needs, because if it takes 20 years to get a plant online, then, we're that much further away from that. And the plants, the new designs are completely untested. There's one nuclear power plant in China that is using one of those plans. And some of the things that have been proposed, like poor Kansas is being stuck with this really crazy plan to stack nuclear power plants underneath a mile deep. and leave them there. And a lot of the protections that are required of big nuclear plants are absent in small ones. So in many ways, not only is their safety untested, it's likely to be worse.
Right.
And all of that money that's going into nuclear, if that went into solar and wind and geothermal and battery storage and deep conservation, could get us there a whole lot faster. So I'm delighted that there's going to be this poll, and I hope people will vote not to support the repeal.
Rick, you can start that.
Thank you so much, Shel. These are really important points.
That's very helpful. And Marcia, are you there? Would you like to elaborate on some things that Shell has brought forward and your thoughts on this, maybe from the democracy perspective, if you're out there?
I am out there, and
Okay.
and I'm also highly opposed to pretty much any advancement of nuclear power and the whole concept behind SMRs. I think they'll be found to be economically infeasible. But the democracy piece of this is the most disturbing. And it was 67% of the population who voted for that referendum in 1982. I personally was involved in that, and since have become involved in climate issues, but I haven't changed my opinions, as concerned and worried as I am about what climate is going to do and all the implications of it. I just can't wrap my mind around nuclear being a good idea for so many reasons. The law does not ban nuclear facilities. The referendum, the law that came from that, it's Chapter 503 of the Acts of 1982. And when this is talked about in the various bills that the governor did, the Republicans did.
Marcia, we lost your sound.
I still have it.
No, you can't hear me?
Now I can.
I can hear you.
Yeah, you're okay.
They just say that the Chapter 503 of the Acts are hereby being revoked. It isn't even a conversation or identification about what it is that is being revoked. And most people don't know. So I ask people and talk to people, and they don't know this is happening. The law is a safety guardrail law. It doesn't ban anything. It doesn't stop anything. It's really to provide assurances that things will not be built in a shoddy fashion and that people will be safe. Only about 25 American states even allow these citizen referendums. And of those, 11 of them don't have any laws that govern against the legislature altering them. And Massachusetts is one of those 11. So it's not illegal for this to occur. It's just, in my opinion, kind of unconscionable. Okay. California requires that voters have to have another ballot to change an existing ballot. And there are 4 states where referendums being overturned require either a 2/3 vote by the legislature, and in Michigan it's a 3/4 majority required. So this is really an issue of, I know we're a representative democracy, but this is an example where the public actually has direct democracy. And if we allow the revoking of the public's will, it really provides an opportunity for unchecked legislative authority against the voters, and allowing a line item to get rid of the will of the people is a really dangerous precedent to set in our state. That kind of behavior has become very common at the federal level, and it's a real threat. Right. And I don't see why we should allow that in Massachusetts.
Okay, I hear you. So
Thank you.
You're appealing to folks regardless of what they think about nuclear power to some extent, if they care about democracy.
Yes, I'll let somebody else tell you all the reasons why I also think it's a very bad idea.
Well, we've heard a lot from the anti-nuclear folks, and I will tell you, we have invested time and energy in Elders Climate Action, and we have folks who are very expert on the pros and cons of nuclear power. I don't want this to, this is not a place to have that full debate. I know Paul is, I'm going to let you have a little time to counteract some of what folks have said. We don't want to open the floor to debate nuclear power. We're here to debate this particular piece of legislation, and in particular from the democracy perspective. But Paul,
Okay.
are there a few words that you wanted to say just to jump in?
Yeah, just a few points. One
Yeah.
is 44 years was a long time ago. The world has changed. Climate has become a much bigger issue than it was back then. That, and we're not looking at this in a vacuum. I mean, it's not whether nuclear is perfect or not. It's ultimately it's just whether it's better than gas is really the question, because we're using gas right now to generate our electricity, and is nuclear less dangerous than gas in terms of how it's affecting the world? Um, Lastly, I would say, the money issues, if it's more expensive, then it's not going to happen. So I wouldn't, the money is not the issue here. Uh, and then, I mean, it's really just putting it on an even playing field with everything else.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that we have referendums for gas plants, which I would like to have. If it's on an equal playing field, then either it will make sense or it won't. And if it doesn't make sense, it won't happen. So we shouldn't be worried.
Okay, I hear you. Take two more comments, and then we're going to move into the poll, so we have time to move on to our next topic. Lorna, and then Stanley.
Thank you, and thank you, Audrey. And I just want to mention Audrey's got a hard stop at 1 o'clock. So just a quick question. I think, Paul, I understand your point, but the fact that it was 44 years ago doesn't change the fact that it was a decision made by the public, and the way this is trying to be done seems completely inappropriate for what we're doing. I guess I'd be more amenable to your position if I felt we were going all full steam ahead on all the clean energy projects that need to be done, like wind and the other projects. It's just disturbing to me that we're talking about something that's going to take a long time to build when we have things right at hand that we could be doing. So that's my 2 cents.
Great. Stanley. Now you're working on getting off mute. There you go.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I did not have my hand up.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, let's move on to a poll here. And can folks see that? Oh, I have to launch it. I've never done this before. It's the first time.
Yes, we see it.
So the question here is you check the response that reflects your view on repealing the requirement of a referendum to build a nuclear plant in Massachusetts. I think you'll understand that. So you can vote to repeal, to keep the requirement for the referendum. You can stay neutral, or you can just feel like, I just finished my lunch. I can't think about this right now. So everybody, get on board here. Tell us what you're... So it looks like we've got
Wait,
5.
which is the one to vote for not supporting the nuclear option?
So if you want to keep the requirement for a referendum, it would be much less likely that we'll get nuclear power, because they would have to bring it to a referendum. So you would say keep the requirement for a referendum.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay, we got a few more people, and Audrey, you don't have to vote. And you got to go in just a minute, and that's just a good timing, I think. I am going to end the poll, and then we'll share the results. And so we are seeing we have about 16% saying let's go with what the House has said. Let's repeal that requirement for referendum. We have 58% say keep the requirement, and then we got a significant number of folks. So let's continue study and discussion on this. And everybody had an opinion, so we are a highly opinionated group. So we will take that into account as we plan further study, education, and discussion around this issue. And
Roger, could you post the results for a second there?
they are, aren't they still there? Oh,
No, he took them down.
Thank you.
okay.
So, and Roger,
Yeah.
while people are adjusting the results, and before Audrey pops off, Audrey, could you please send a message, I think for most of us on this team, to Senator Barrett to thank him for understanding the difference between short-term and long-term goals and needs. And I realize it's hard for people when they're paying so much out of pocket, but somehow we've got to keep that front and center in our thinking.
Agreed. And thank you so much for talking with me today. And I will be more than happy to share all of your opinions with the senator.
Great.
I'm going to put my email in the chat here. So if anybody has any additional questions or want to get back in touch, please feel free to reach out. We're happy to talk with you.
Audrey, thank you so much. You've added a whole lot to our discussion, and we have a few more things to take on. We'll be back in touch, I'm sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone.
Senator.
I will. Thanks.
All right. Bye now. All right, we're going to move on. We still have a little more time here to the Environmental Bond Bill, also known as the Mass Ready Act. The governor submitted that to the Senate, and it's really primarily focused on adaptation issues because it's about capital spending primarily for infrastructure, for the most part, not entirely, but that's the main, and we're not really that concerned about those issues. Our movement has not said a lot about the main centerpieces of that bill around infrastructure. It was reported out by the Senate Environmental and Natural Resources Committee to Ways and Means, and then it was amended as it came to the Senate floor. There were more than 300 amendments submitted, and you may remember, those of you, we sent out some action alerts about amendments that we supported. Big amendment fight. A lot of amendments actually got in. A bunch didn't get in. We'll show you the ones of ours that did get in just a minute. Right now, the bill is in House Ways and Means, so we do have an opportunity to keep some things in that we want, to take some things out that we don't want, by advocating the Ways and Means, amending this on the House floor if necessary, and then working with the conference committee down the road. So there's still some opportunities to deal with this bill, as there are with the energy affordability bill, which we know now is in the Senate under the purview of Senator Barrett. So we supported these amendments. We wanted a climate bank to be established. We did get the climate bank shoehorned into the bill, but only to be studied, not to be established. We did get essentially the all key elements of the drought bill in the bill. We want to keep that. Municipal reforestation got in there. We want to keep that. Forest protection got in there, but the folks who know everything about natural solutions are not very happy with the language. So that needs to be modified or removed. And the climate bank we'd like to be modified as well. And Tina, you have your hand up.
Yes, I just wanted to say we had a meeting this morning with Senator Eldridge as part of the MPF lobby day, and I think we'll probably talk about that a little bit later. And he reminded us that he has put in $500 million in the municipal vulnerability plans into the bond bill. So we should be advocating for that. The municipal vulnerability program is the program for grants for cities and towns to do climate resilience and in towns around flooding, around water management, etc.
Okay. Are there folks here, I mean, either John from Climate Bank Coalition or any from Natural Solutions who wants to say a little bit about what you'd like to tweak or remove around your issues in this bill? Anybody going to step up there?
Roger, you asked me about the climate bank bill?
Yeah, well, just this part of it, you're going to have a whole section at the end to tell us where you're going in general, but why don't you like what's in there now and want to change it?
Yeah, well, the language of about the climate bank and the environmental bond bill is really just what we call placeholder language. It's not the language of the bill itself, and as you indicated, it's an indication that the Senate considers it an important policy issue to be looked at further. And by putting that placeholder language in the bond bill, it simply keeps it alive. It's one possible pathway in the Senate. There are other possible pathways forward, such as through the energy affordability bill. We were hoping to see the climate bank, the bill language adopted in the bond bill, and that did not happen.
Right, right. So is one of the pathways going to be try to modify that language?
There's a possibility on the House side right
Yes.
now
Okay.
to do that. And as there was a meeting that Jeff and Sherry and others had with Senator Comerford, and her recommendation was to the over on the House side to encourage House Ways and Means to put the not just an amendment into the bond bill for the climate bank, but actually incorporate the climate bank into the bond bill in House Ways and Means. That was her suggestion.
Okay.
But I'll talk more about the House side later.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds great. And anybody from Natural Solutions want to talk about what's going on with the forest protection piece? I'm not seeing anybody.
Roger, I will if I thought Rick was going to, but he.
No, go ahead, Marcia. I don't know. Unless
look in the chat is what I'd have to say. I just put a bunch in there on forest protection. I put it in the chat.
Okay, well, but do you want to tell us about it, Rick, or Marcia?
Marcia, go ahead.
Well, we focused on forest protection, municipal reforestation, and the drought bill. And the drought bill got into the environmental bond bill in a significantly positive way. The municipal reforestation also is in the EBB bill. So we want those things to be maintained when it shakes out after the House writes their version. And the money in the municipal reforestation could be increased. Right now it's $10 million, and that's for 351 municipalities. So spread out, that isn't a lot of money for greening urban environments. The forest protection is pretty complicated. The language in both the bills and in the environmental bond bill are not felt to be adequate, positive, or really addressing the issue in a very clear manner. I have trouble interpreting the language that's in there. What's trying to be accomplished is for forests, watersheds, old growth areas, and fish and wildlife areas all to have the same protections, to have the state lands be permanent reserves, to have them minimally managed as the national parks have been, to have a scientific advisory council that has people capable of addressing biodiversity and native plants and wildfires and all the different aspects that go into having healthy land areas, and also for that process to remain an open to the public process. The language that's confusing is designating and de-designating of reserves. And I'm not quite sure how that's going to be straightened out, other than that somebody from the House will put in an amendment that will do so. Mark did that in the Senate, and it was rejected.
Okay.
So that's about it.
All right.
What we're doing.
Yeah, so we will expect folks in our audience will be hearing more around advocacy, clarifying language with some specific things for you to advocate to your legislators for. So unless there are any further questions about the bills, at least those two big bills, I want to just spend a little time talking about our advocacy strategy and recruiting some folks here to help us out if you're able and willing. What we're going to do as a legislative team is create a summary of our priority and talking points for you all to be using in the various ways that you may be advocating down the road. So you at least have a summary and then reminders as you get action alerts and other things. But we'll be working on that, putting together a lot of what you heard today. We are working, we have a small group that's working to promote constituency groups or teams. We're identifying ECA members right now who are in specific Senate districts, some of the ones on the Senate Ways and Means in particular, and Senate leadership, and trying to connect those members and see if someone will step up and take some leadership for building a team in their district. We would be prepared to support meetings with reps and senators to whatever extent we can. We're hoping that people can build relationships with their reps and senators. So one thing we're hoping to do is to build those teams, have them sort of really working at various times, meeting with and connecting with staff and reps and senators over time. That takes a while and not going to get done by the end of this session, but we'd like to get started with these two bills around those issues. You're going to receive action alerts around a number of the things we talked about today, our particular priorities. They'll be coming. We are going to offer training for any folks who feel like they could benefit from some training to sharpen their advocacy tools. That would be that's another possibility. And we also are supporting responses of our coalition partners and allies. So this is where, as Tina said, MPF, for example, has come up with they called it a lobby day. It turned out to be about a lobby week, and it wasn't at the State House. It was mostly in district or online. Tina's organized a group of folks in her community who are MPF supporters to step up and meet with Senator Eldridge. And I'm going to be meeting with some Senator Spilka at some point. So we're supporting our allies when they step up to do some advocacy if we're on the same page. And for MPF in this case, we are. Tina, did you want to say something about how things went out there?
Sure. It was a nice opportunity to meet some new people from other towns in Jamie's district. There was a couple of young people that had stepped up for the first time. One young woman who's a trained nurse and getting her master's degree in public health, who this was her first time doing any advocacy at all. And so I think it was a really nice opportunity for her. Jamie listened to the various MPF policies. Paul Reisberg was there, Rick Lent was there, and I think it was an interesting opportunity for constituents from different organizations. So 350 Mass, Sierra Club, Elders Climate Action, and there's another organization, I don't remember the man's affiliation. So I think it was pretty successful.
Great. And I see a hand up there from Maria.
Hi, I just want to mention that I am a constituent of Senator Tarr's, and I have a Mass Power Forward meeting set up with him, not until the 28th, because that was the first one I could get. But anybody who is in his district and would like to participate, we're using the policy points from Mass Power Forward, which align perfectly with what you've been talking about here: Save Mass Save, cut back on GSEP, and the other pipeline things, and then also the nuclear referendum and other stuff there. So anybody who's interested, I'll put my email in the chat and you can contact me.
Thank you, Maria. We look forward to hearing how that goes. And I'll just say, if you're interested in this, being part of a constituency team or learning more about this effort to build constituency groups, if you are willing and able, just go into the chat and just say join constituency or something like that. And we'll pick up after this meeting. Make sure we save the chat and get your name and reach out to you. Folks who are organizing these small groups are meeting tomorrow at 4 p.m. and anybody's welcome to come. If you want to let me know, I'd be happy to give you the link for that. Lorna.
Real quickly, so a couple of things. One, many of us have been told who are working on ECA or NECA that it doesn't take that many contacts from constituents to make a difference in terms of the way a bill is going to move. I've heard like 10 phone calls on a particular issue can make a difference. So we would like to have many more than that. But bottom line, I think people underestimate the power of a constituency. And I have a question for Tina. Tina, you mentioned that it was mentioned that you organized this constituency group. How did you pull in people from other organizations? Because I think that coalition piece is really important.
The person from the Sierra Club, Eva Morgan, who was organizing MPF, got in touch with those people and then sent me the list as a leader. Then she sent me the list of those people.
Great, thank you.
You signed up to be a leader on the MPF platform or website or whatever it was. And then as a leader, they set it all up for you. You had to set up the meeting, but they gave you the materials, sent to constituents who were from his district, besides the ones that I reached out to from ECA.
So we'd be in a slightly different situation if we weren't going in under MPF.
It would be, yeah, we would have probably only our members going, I think.
Right.
We will be doing that as well, and we'll kind of get to that next in terms of some of the opportunities we have. So I'm going to just move on to advocacy targets and opportunities, just to remind us. I think we got that pretty well under our belts already, but Ways and Means chairs both in the House and in the Senate, because we have the Environmental Bond Bill in the House and we have the Energy Affordability Bill in the Senate. So if you recognize any of these names as one of your legislators, you are particularly a target for us, because these are targets for the whole organization to reach out to. But they're going to be key as the bills still sit in Ways and Means. Clearly, Senator Barrett is somebody we have a relationship with, so we can certainly maybe get some early views of what he's thinking and sending some information to him. But don't say we're just going to focus on these folks, because reaching out to all legislators is important. What they can do specifically at a time like this is for them to reach out to Ways and Means. And that carries a little more weight than one of our voices necessarily, especially if we're not a constituent. So it's always a good thing to be reaching out to legislators at all times. We need to be ready with some amendments and sponsors. Probably this will be with our allies. It takes a bit to organize sponsors to sponsor an amendment, be ready on the day that the bill comes up, but it can be done. It can be very effective, and we'll keep our ear to the ground about what our allies are doing around that. We may need to do some advocacy as that day arrives, when bills are on the floor, on the Senate floor and on the House floor. And then finally, everything's going to move to conference committees, and there although everything is done a little bit in secret, behind closed doors, there's still opportunities for our legislators to sneak in there and put in a good word. So that's kind of where our opportunities are. And these are the tactics that we've used in the past and that we're trying to build going forward. There are different types of actions that are going to be coming up. Some of these will be kind of single issue things, like just a single amendment. We may want to just advocate for, let's get this amendment in, or 2 or 3 amendments. We may want to focus on GSEP reform in an outreach, in an email, and a phone call to some legislator. Other times we're going to say it's like the whole bill. We like what's in here, and we're just saying vote for this bill. It could be a whole bill all put together, or it could be one of our standalone bills that we're supporting a bill, not particularly an issue. Sometimes we'll be acting alone. We'll be doing our action alerts and making our appointments and meeting as Elders Climate Action, and as we just did with MPF. We'll have collective actions. The Climate Bank Coalition, under John and others' leadership, has done a really good job of pulling together folks who may not be in the same organization but are in the same district. They've had a lot of experience with that, and he's kind of brought it to the table as we're talking about building our teams. You're familiar with the tactics. Email, obviously, personalized if possible. Each star is a little estimate of the influence. People say that phone calls, they can be short, brief, but to the point, and often followed with an email, may be one of the most effective tactics. And then clearly meetings and building relationships, probably as the most influential thing that we can do if we get prepared and we're actually meeting with the rep or the senator. Then, of course, there are petitions and demonstrations, and we may be signing on to sign-on letters. I thought in terms of defeating the Cusack original version of the Energy Affordability Bill, one of the most effective things our climate movement, I think, has ever done, really was a sign-on letter of something like 50 to 60 organizations. It was organized by the Acadia Center, but there were followed up by, I think, hundreds, maybe thousands of phone calls as well. So these all tactics have to kind of come together. All right. Any questions or comments or thoughts about how to proceed, or how you would like to see our legislative team, our leadership organizing our advocacy going forward? Any new thoughts, creative? And I'm going to take a little bit of a poll to see how interested people are. Alan.
Yeah, Roger, I just thought it would be important to let everybody know that we're coming down to the wire here. There's, 2.5 months left to go in this legislative session. So
yeah,
this is crunch time, people.
Indeed, indeed, yes, and I think Tina's seconding that. Lana.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that one of the things I think we should start doing a little more frequently are action hours, where we have a group
Okay.
that's already assembled for a meeting, and we can take, 10 minutes, 15 minutes at that time to get it and nail out some commentary to our reps
I
and senators.
totally agree. We had thought about doing one today. We didn't quite have the time and energy to do that. I'm going to do another poll here just to see what folks are able to. How do we get rid of this poll here? Go away. Like I said, this is the first time I've done this. Back. Oh, there we go. I had to go back. Okay, so here we have a poll, the launch, which just asks you you can choose any one or more of these, as many as fit. These are advocacy actions that you can commit to. Check all that apply, and that phoning in after you get an action alert, sending a personal email to a legislator, being part of a constituency group, meeting with legislators when asked and you are able to, and you may just have other things in mind, or maybe you can't commit to any of these things at this time, all of the above. So take a look at those and fill in what you can, and check all that apply, and we'll see what kind of energy we have for advocacy as we go into this crunch time.
So while that's going on, Roger, I see that in the chat, Michael McCord stepped up for the constituency group. I've got his name down. So we want to make sure we keep track of people who've stepped up for that.
Good. And so we got 20. We got another maybe 7 people to respond. Anybody? If you're okay. All right. Last minute here. Any last responses? Anybody who hasn't responded yet? Respond now or forever hold your peace, as they say. Okay. All right. We'll end the poll there. So phoning, very popular, about 65%. Emails, also very popular, and we got 87% there. It's great that 70% are interested in being part of a constituency group. So I encourage those of you who said you are, if we don't already know that you're interested, do put your name in the chat and just say interested in constituency so that we can contact you. There's no big commitment up front, just to express some interest. Meeting with the legislators, this is great. So in essence, if we set something up and we reach out to you, there's a large majority of folks who say, yes, we're willing to meet with legislators.
Can you show us the poll, Roger?
What's that?
Can you show us the poll results?
Oh, I'm sorry, didn't see that. Okay, sorry. I had to hit share. Thank you. Take your time to take a look at that. Alan, did you have your hand up again, or is that a historical? It's down. Okay. So comments, questions about poll results here, or thoughts? I'm impressed with the energy in this room, especially those who are willing to step up and meet with legislators when we ask. So that gives a lot of energy to our constituency group building team, that there are folks who, if we find you and we see you're in the right place and we reach out to you, that you might be willing to sort of step up and come down to a district office or go online to meet with one of your legislators. That's very positive, and we might need to push that forward a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to stop that and bring that down. Yeah, it actually worked. That was incredible. And we'll get back to finishing this up here, and not too much more to go. There we go. Okay, poll is done. So now the last thing is we have a few bills that are what I would call on parallel tracks that are still out there. They're alive and well. The vast majority of bills that we had on our priority list, which was in the order of 25 or 28 or something, the vast majority, and I'd say 70, 75% or more, ended up being voted favorably out of committee and are now sitting poised for any further action. The reality is with these big omnibus bills, they're moving, and we try to attach anything we can to them, but some things really need to move off on their own tracks. So I'm going to ask John and then Dave to speak a little bit about what's happening with Climate Bank and then plastics, and we have then other opportunities for others to speak up if they would like. So John, are you there?
Yes, I'm right here, Roger. Thank you. So a quick update on the climate bank in the House. We've talked a little bit about what's happened on the Senate side, but now the climate bank coalitions, the focus is on the House side because it's sitting in House Ways and Means, along with the environmental bond bill. Our strategy at this point is to focus on about 37 key the House members. Some of them are on House Ways and Means, some are not, but all of them at one point or another have publicly supported the climate bank. So we know these are our supporters, our key ones in the House, and we are organizing as many constituent meetings as we can with those 37 House reps. If we can do others, great, but we're starting with those 37. Some of those, the constituent meetings are already scheduled. The organized drawing on the database from the Elder Climate Action and our coalition database and Citizens Climate Lobby and 350 Mass and others. We put the individuals in the database, organized by their districts. So we've sent out a lot of requests to people already saying, you're in this district, your rep is one of the priority reps that we want to reach out to and have a constituent meeting with. If you're interested, please let us know. And so we're right in the midst of all of that. And as we have these constituent meetings, the ask is a very straightforward and simple one, because all of these reps know about the climate bank bill. They've shown support for it, as I said. So we're asking them to go to Chair Miklowitz, the chair of House Ways and Means, and ask him to move this bill positively out of committee. That's the ask. We're not getting at this point into details and nuances about what's the best pathway out of House Ways and Means? Should it be in the bond bill? Should it be an amendment? Should it move forward in some other ways? We're leaving it to the discretion of the chair and the House committee to decide what is the most feasible and politically viable way to move it forward. So if you haven't seen the email from us about the 37 House reps that we're prioritizing, and you're wondering if you're in one of those districts, email me or put your name in the chat and I will follow up with you. One of you on today's meeting has already sent me a message in the chat. They just indicating that they're in one of those districts. It's with Representative Schwartz, and they're willing to help with that constituent meeting. So I'll be getting back to that person. Hope there are others of you on the call who would like to do the same.
Great. Thank you, John. You guys are doing a great job pulling together folks from a whole variety of places and really putting the pressure on the legislature. So we're hopeful that we can get something through for sure. Dave, do you want to say something about what's happening with plastics?
Yeah, sure. We're the newest of the working groups in ECA Mass on plastic reduction. And at the beginning of this session, a year ago in January, we set 3 primary areas for our priorities. The first was updating the 43-year-old bottle bill. Imagine, hasn't been touched in that length of time. There's a lot that is totally out of date. Second one is banning the use of polystyrene, which includes styrofoam packaging. And third, banning single-use plastic shopping bags statewide. What we've learned is that since the 2014 Mass House leaders, particularly the Speaker, Mariano, have blocked the first 2 priorities, and we're guessing may well try to block the third one with single-use plastic shopping bags banned statewide. And it's interesting to note that in terms of the bottle bill updating, the Mass Beverage Association, whose members include Polar Beverages in Worcester as a primary leader, have poured millions of dollars into blocking the bottle bill update. We've also, as a working group, paid close attention to legislation related to PFAS and land application of toxic sludge, as well as artificial turf. So one theme has really emerged from our advocacy work in the last year and a half on Beacon Hill. There is little or weak awareness and understanding among legislators of the significant climate as well as health impacts of continued production, use, and disposal of plastics. Very superficial, if any, awareness of how significant a climate issue, for example, the plastic production, use, and disposal results in. So we aim, before the start of the next legislative session in January of this coming year, 2027, to identify educational messages as well as delivery channels that are most likely to raise legislators' awareness of these impacts, particularly in the House, to pass laws that reduce the use of plastics in Massachusetts. We also want to improve our capacity to reach out to ECA constituents regarding plastics as a key climate issue and invite members to engage with their state rep or senator. So we got a number of people who are going to tomorrow afternoon's meeting on the constituent groups, and we welcome that and appreciate the effort that Roger and others have put together, in towards that. So if you're interested in joining us, put your name and email address into the chat to me, Dave Damlure, or email me at dldo@uhr@hotmail.com. I'll put that in the chat as well. The next plastics working group is Wednesday, tomorrow, at 2 p.m. If you're interested, hope to see you there.
So just to sum up, Dave, what you're hoping to keep in the bag ban that came out of the Senate
Quite right.
In the environmental bond bill, and then you've got those three other bills, really, at least. I mean, two others relating to plastic that are on their own track that you're really pushing for, and then you've got some things on PFAS and a few other things down the road there.
Yep, that's right.
So you'll let us
but
know.
the key here is education. The leadership just it just doesn't really understand that this is plastics production, use, and disposal is a key climate issue. They're building new plastic production facilities all around the country, and it takes a huge amount of fossil fuels to be burned in order to produce all the plastic that
Gotcha.
people want.
We're involved in a fight in Natick around artificial turf. So someday we'll talk more about that. There was a bill that's been defeated this session, didn't get in an amendment to the energy bill. So we got a lot of work to do there for sure.
That's right.
Thanks, Dave, for all your work in this area and your team. I think, first of all, quick question, maybe you have the answer. How many states actually have bans on plastic bags? Or is it cities? Is it all city level versus state?
That's a question I'd have to defer to my 6-7 other colleagues.
Right.
I'll look it up.
You want me to try to jump in? I think statewide there are probably, just a guess, maybe 6 or 7, but there are many, many municipalities scattered throughout the country.
Yeah. And the other thing, I think there's just been a blitz of publicity around the dangers of plastic, new information around microplastics, old information that's been circulating forever for people who pay attention. I'm just wondering, are we educating the wrong people? I mean, not the wrong people, the public for sure, but is there a way to focus on education? And I don't know that education is equal to lobbyist money. I will just say that up front. But do we have to do more of an assault at the legislative level in terms of talking, with the facts?
Yeah, that's exactly what our primary objective has emerged in the last couple of weeks or month, is to target Senator Spilka, others in the House committees of the climate implications of continued increased production of plastics. Okay. Absolutely, sure. And that through the constituent groups, if we can be leaning on key leaders, particularly in the House, I think we're going to make a significant difference. Looks like Susan's got a comment.
Yeah, Susan, go ahead.
Yeah, I also want to add, I don't think people realize that the emissions from plastics, and this is largely from the sourcing side, from mining and fracking and production, is 4 times the amount of emissions from the global aviation industry. Yeah. So it is a big, I think, if I'm recalling, I think it might be 3 or 4% of emissions right now, total emissions globally. And that the plastics, the petrochemical industry, of course, is seeing this as its cash cow, as people use less and less fossil fuels for transportation and heating. And I think it's projected right now for their production, particularly in marketing single-use plastics, things that people are using for just a few minutes and throwing away, to triple by 2050. So yes, the climate impact is quite large, much larger than people realize. But I agree with what Lona was getting at, which is that, in my opinion, from what I've noticed from my local advocacy, health impacts are what move people, even though the downstream impacts are, in my opinion, less than the upstream impacts. I think health is what appeals, what gets the attention of the general public. And so with all the health news coming out in the last year, I do feel like that's really important to take advantage of that information.
We don't need the walker, just the transport chair.
Last comment, because
Okay.
I would tag on to what Susan said, is that recycling is not a solution. That's an epiphany I think many of us have had, thinking, oh, well, we can just stick it in the recycle bin and we're done. In fact, the recycle rate is about 4 or 5%, and you can only do it once or maybe twice, and then it's so degraded, there's not much you can do with it. So,
No, you had not the last word here on plastics.
Okay, last word, short words. Okay, just I think one of the major issues, and thank you, Dave, for that, because I joined a town recycling committee. And what I realized within 3 years is that it was not the answer. And I tried to get the town to shift to waste committee as opposed to trash committee. Anyway, long story. But Susan, I think one of the major issues is a substitution for the plastic. I'm slowly converting everything that I have in terms of plastic containers to glass or tin. And I think that is what I hear from most people. What am I supposed to do? Everything's in plastic. And I think that is a huge challenge.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, there is a new documentary out which people might be interested in, and it's mostly focused on fertility. It's called The Plastic Detox on Netflix. It's free. And in that documentary, toxicology epidemiologist goes in and helps people substitute in their homes their exposures to plastics, and it changes their fertility. And there is you can go online and find a lot of those substitution products in, I believe it's through Grove is the company, but if you look up plastic detox substitution kit or something like that, there's a wide range of stuff. Sadly, it's expensive. It's not cheap. And that's a big problem too. But I agree with you. The substitution in our homes is a big factor, and reusable items.
And who knew that plastics was such a good form of contraception? The Pope should be on this, I think.
Yeah, she saw a decrease in sperm production that was like ridiculous. So.
Okay. Quickly, anything from Natural Solutions about, aside what's been going on with the omnibus bills here? Anything else to say?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Tina had her hand up. Did you have something?
Did I miss you, Tina?
Oh, I took it down. I was going to send something say something to Dave. I put it in an email. Go ahead. Thanks.
Okay. Well, I mean, the Natural Solutions group, Marcia's here. She's part of that group. Several of the rest of you here have been participants. We've been following a series of bills. We're getting close to the end of the session, of course. Some of these bills I've already put in the chat. If you scroll back up, you'll see information, for example, on the forest protection bills. We're really concerned with protecting forests for their quality, for their ability to protect the quality of the water we all drink. Remember, if you live in Greater Boston, you're drinking water that hopefully was filtered through the forests around the Quabbin. That doesn't work if those forests are being logged. And right now, they can be. So there's a variety of different acts that are trying to protect forests. There is also another bill designed to help cities and towns add trees back to their sidewalks. There was a member who years ago did a temperature test on his street somewhere in Cambridge and recognized that it was at least a 10%, sometimes a 15% difference in the temperature at the street level where there was trees and where there weren't. And there are many other reasons to have good native trees in your local urban environment. So we've got a bill on that. And then finally, we have drought bills. And, you know, we're in a drought now. You may remember last year it got kind of bad. It could get kind of bad again. I believe the Quabbin is down by a good percentage, but I don't know what it is. In my community, we're on private wells. And if you're in a community with a private well, you have almost no ability to control what your neighbor does with their well. So they can be watering their lawns like crazy, and you are gradually running out of water in your well. So we need legislation that supports local boards of health and actually taking control of the local water situation. So those are all some of the bills we're working on. And as I said, I think I've put references to all of them in the chat.
Great.
As the meeting proceeded.
Thank you, Rick. So, Paul, did you want to say anything about transportation? I know you got one bill that's still alive and well moving forward.
Yeah, well, our main bill, which was the aligning climate goals with capital improvement plans, got through the Senate, but it became nationalized, and Mass Fiscal Alliance made it a priority, and we've been told it's not going to happen. The still alive is a fleets bill, which sets timetables for electrification, and a permitting bill for rail. But doesn't seem much is happening for this session on transportation.
And I will just wrap this up. Same is true for buildings. A lot of our bills got favorably reported out of committee, but at least some of the word we're sort of hearing is that they don't really fit in with the energy affordability bill, and there's not much of an appetite to do anything else this session. But we're going to probably pull ourselves together and see if we can get something through at some point. So we keep fighting there. You might hear from us around that. One other last bill, we have a bill that is aimed at preventing heat illness, occupational heat illness among state public workers. Second time we've submitted that. It got reported out favorably in the House, and it's sitting around in the Senate, and we're trying to build some labor support for that to see if we can prevent some heat illness deaths, maybe not this summer, but the next. So I think that about wraps it up. Any other last comments, thoughts, questions? Concerns, complaints, shout outs, short songs.
Thank you, Roger, so much for doing all this today, for putting